Glad you guys are in the building. We are super excited. My mentor, Richard Rowe, is going to be coming back on stage in a few minutes. I think he was on that burner laptop he bought off of North Avenue, but no, he's okay. Richard's in the building.
Oh my goodness, y'all. Crazy.
We are ready to go. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have our two amazing thought leaders in the building. I am going to introduce both. And then Richard and I will engage these two dynamic thought leaders in questions. And what we want you guys to do, this is literally the last major conversation of the day. And then Sadiq is going to come back in with some housekeeping notes, some things that we want to share with you guys that are super important. And so we really don't want you to wait until the last minute to begin to drop your questions in the chat. But let me just introduce our two super dynamic thought leaders. And Richard and I have both had the pleasure of watching these young men, do their thing over a period of time. Dr. Heber Brown, community organizer, change agent, social entrepreneur, world traveler, one of the few pastors that I even like and speak to, is the senior pastor of Pleasant Hope Baptist Church in Baltimore. And for 2 decades, he's been a catalyst for both personal transformation and social change. He is doing some amazing work. Next but not least, Brother Eric Jackson. He's a social worker, an organizer, educator, a filmmaker, and an extremely humble brother. He's the co-founder of Black Yield that is doing some amazing work in Cherry Hill in South Baltimore. This brother and his crew are committed to 1.25 acres of urban agricultural projects. He's also doing a great deal of Black-led research, political education, and organizing. Ladies and gentlemen, can you put a one in the chat box if you're excited to hear from these Titans? Put a one in the chat box if you're excited to hear from these two exceptional brothers. Come on, y'all. I know we've been on all day, and that itis is kicking in. Just put a one. Put something in there. Put something in the chat box.
I put 100, man. I put 100. These two brothers. Whoa.
So, really, before we really dive in with Brother Eric and Brother Heber, I don't know, Brother Eric, if you could bring your camera up, you turn your camera on and unmute your mic. I want to give both of these Titans a couple of minutes to really set the tone and share a little bit about your organizations and your philosophy that undergird the work that you're doing. We're going to start with Dr. Heber Brown, and then we're going to go to Eric Jackson.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank y'all for this opportunity to come and be a part of this. I just put in the chat box, this feels like the family sitting around the yard talking and engaging, and DJ No ID was breaking it down, then the Baltimore trivia. That was beautiful, all of it. I'm grateful for the energy and grateful for you two brothers. I'm looking on the screen, Richard Rowe and David Miller. You can't grow up in Baltimore and not know these brothers and appreciate all that they've done. Like, I got memories on top of memories. And matter of fact, they talk about put a one for me. Put a one in the chat box if you've been blessed by Richard Rowe and David Miller. Put a one in that box if you've been to any of the events that they've held over the years. I grew up going to their events, going down to Baltimore Convention Center, going to the Youth Explode. Like, listen, y'all are institutions in the city of Baltimore. And my grandfather would often say, give me my flowers where I can smell them. I'm going to make sure y'all get your flowers for the giants that you are. And I really appreciate and love both of you. You set a stand. I can't even talk about my philosophy without talking about y'all philosophy.
Love you, brother. Love you.
Yeah, man.
Love
I can't
back,
talk about my approach to to our organization or my approach to the city of Baltimore. I can't talk about that without talking about the family tree of people that you two are a part of. And there's so many more Baltimore is blessed beyond words when it comes to folks who really commit themselves to service, to love, to uplifting one another. Right, Virginia, remember youth explosions way back at the convention? Right? Man, it was everything to get on the bus or, catch a hack to get down there to the convention center, because that the crowd was going to be there and the resources are going to be there. And so far be it from me.
Bring it, doctor. Bring it, brother.
To come on this screen on a Friday afternoon.
That's right.
And pretend as if I just emerged from out of nowhere without an entire community shaping, molding, checking, challenging, inspiring, and uplifting me. And so I thank you too so very much. And of course, we know there's so many more elders and now ancestors who we have to tip our hat and hold our heart to as well. So I appreciate you for that. And when it comes to our organization, just studying the ways in which y'all put things together over the years to try to get at social and personal issues, problems, and challenges. And that's a part of what I think about when I think about the Black Church Food Security Network, which is one of the organizations that I'm blessed to be a part of. And the Black Church Food Security Network simply does this. It tries to steer and organize and mobilize the assets, resources, and people in Black church spaces toward Black food security and Black food sovereignty. We essentially say, church has got all this land, and a lot of that land just sitting there. Churches have all these kitchens, and a lot of those kitchens go underutilized Monday through Saturday. Churches got all these buses, and all these buses, many of them stay parked in the parking lot outside of Sunday service. And in my estimation, that is sin. We want to talk about sin. Some people like to talk about sin and in terms of, who you love, who you lay with, what you're smoking on and what you do on the weekend. I think sin is when God blesses you with great abundance and you refuse to use it, not only for your own uplift, but for the uplift of your community too. That's a part of sin that I understand. And so I'm trying to help Black churches come up out of sin, because so many of our communities are suffering because of the lack of agency and power with respect to our food environment. We connect Black churches, Black farmers, and we're co-creating, doing our part to co-create food systems. We help churches to grow food on the land that they own, utilize their kitchens and their assets to help further and support and process what is grown on church land. And we steer church money toward Black farmers. We help Black churches buy in bulk from Black farmers. And then we also ensure that we help with the logistics, meaning right now, and I know my camera just went, but can y'all still hear me? Okay, I'm back. Right now, we rent trucks to transport produce from the farm to the church. The day is coming when we'll have our own trucks and trailers transporting food and produce and other goods from the farm to the church, from the rural Black community to the inner city Black community, and back and forward. So I'm really excited about supply chain organizing and supply chain activism, because as long as our health, I talk about it, before, people have talked about the Black community needs to get a handle on their health, but it's impossible to get a handle on your health if you don't have power over your plate. We need to have power over our plate. And once we have power over our plate, it opens up a world of possibilities with respect to our mental health, our physical health, economic and community development, and so much more. So that's what we do with the Black Church Food Security Network. And if I could say super quickly, the Food Network is really a part of an ecosystem of organizations. We are moving the church, the Freedom School that I'm blessed to be a part of, the Food Network, and we have a community development corporation all working together in an ecosystem. And I'm really excited about that work at this time, because I'm clear at this stage of my journey, collaboration and cooperation and operational unity and the leveraging of resources together really is going to make the lasting sustainable impact even beyond our lifetime. And so that is what it is that I'm blessed to be a part of.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Heber Brown. We're going to come back to you in a minute. Brother Eric Jackson, just to start off, we've already introduced yourself, read a little bit about your bio. If you can share with us the name of your organization and your organizational mission. And then we have a couple of questions for you and our good brother, Dr. Heber Brown. I know Brother Eric was in his car. We may have to come back to him in a minute, so we're going to keep it moving. And so, Eric, if you can hear me, just jump in, get in where you fit in. And so, can you hear me, Brother Eric?
Yeah.
Brother Eric, can you hear me?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can, brother.
We can, good brother. Just share with us.
You all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear us? Brother Eric, can you hear us? Okay. Eric, just tell everyone the name of your organization and your organizational philosophy. Eric, did you hear me? Okay, so Brother Heber, we're going to go to you. We all understand technology. How important is it for organizations to collaborate to address the ongoing challenges that youth and children face in Baltimore? And you just actually talked about collaboration. Why is collaboration essential for us to address the challenges that young people and their families are having in Baltimore?
I'll be very honest, Brother David. You know, it's very easy to fall into the temptation of believing that individual effort is enough to transform and challenge systemic change and systemic obstacles. And when I first started out in activism and organizing in Baltimore, I got caught up in that. I got caught up in believing, despite y'all wonderful examples in front of me, it was just so easy to fall into this trap of believing, here I am, I'm a 20-something now, you know, I'm in my early 20s, you know, been in Baltimore, and I got the charisma, I got the personality, I got the energy, I got that drive, and I'm going to, all by my individual lonesome, transform social challenges that's been here for generations and that is reinforced by a white economic and political power structure to ensure that it works 24/7, 365. But oh, wait, Heber Brown is here and all by himself. Don't make a difference.
Put the cape on.
Oh my goodness.
Put the cape on, right?
Put the cape on and I can just change it by myself. And I lived through that season of learning and recognizing that there were many things that I gave my energy to. And that's not to say we didn't do some good and not to say we didn't make some impact, because we did. But what I've realized was once we put a fire out over here, then I turn my head and a similar manifestation of that same challenge is now over here. And in fact, y'all know that that game at like Chuck E. Cheese, or something where the head keep on coming up, you keep on trying to hit it down. Right. That's what I started to feel like. Like, wait a minute. So just as soon as we start clapping and celebrating that we got some bill passed, or we got, you know, somebody out of office, or, you know, we got some media coverage for a community event, just as soon there was something else happening on the other side. And it just really, my experience in life just really pushed me to be more thoughtful, to lean into a deeper humility around the recognition that, Heber, you can't do everything. Not even just for the sake of the socio-political stuff, but it's also like you can't do everything because in the attempts of trying to do everything, you will burn yourself out. Your family will see you as a stranger.
Say that again. Let's park the car right there.
Right there.
Say that again. Say that again.
Yeah. I mean, so many times it's so tempting to be leaning into the community stuff and forget that you got some little people at the house. You have a spouse or a beloved who, you know, sees you in the blur, in here and there, and the impact that has when home base ain't strong. When the home base ain't right, when home base ain't strong, it impacts everything else you're trying to do outside the doors. And so, you know, at one point in my 20s, I was trying to be at every rally, every demonstration. I'm gonna be there. And I remember David Miller, to the day I'm gone from here, I'll be telling people that I was headed to a round table, one of the many, because y'all know, just like Marble Steps, Baltimore love round tables. Like chicken boxes and half and half, and salt up and ketchup. Baltimore love a round table. And I was in that season where I was just, you know, popping to all of them. And I happened to call Brother David one day on the way to a round table. And I was like, hey, man, I'm going to the so-and-so round table. Are you going to be there? Can I see you there? And David Miller said to me, man, I ain't going to no more round tables. And I was like, what is David talking about? He's left the movement. He's left the struggle. But he was like, man, listen, all we going to do is sit around and talk, have the same people give the same comments. And then after the comments and after the talking, then people leave and go home as if that was the work. And once I heard that from David Miller, it started to shift my own kind of behavior, where it's like, you don't see me on a whole lot of stuff no more, because David Miller showed me something, just even in the way of focusing my energy and really being conscious of, you don't have eternal energy in this finite fleshly form. You got to be very judicious where you're going to lean in. And the question was about collaboration. Toward that end, when I found my focus, and when I, you know, all the things that still are important issues, but just not mine, I began to focus on, all right, here's the very short list. And I've seen the fruit of focus by just zoning in on the short list of things that I can do, and then being in community and leveraging those collaborations and relationships with others who also feel focused in those zones, so they could be a complementary approach to addressing these gargantuan challenges that we need to be realistic about. We will build another room on the house. We will build another level on the wonderful work of the shoulders on which we stand. But we also got to make sure that the young people, which is why I love this effort, that the young people growing up around us and watching us also can get that baton and not only replicate our successes, but even learn and sidestep the ways that we've stumbled and fallen as well. Just to be honest about that. And I think I wish I would have got more of that, like the Dr. King story, all that wonderful, right? But he didn't need to be a caricature in order for me to respect and reverence him, right? Thomas Sankara over my shoulder here, and others, Marcus Garvey and Yas Santuar. I don't need them to be superheroes. I needed them to be whole humans. I wanted to get the whole human presentation so that I could get some help in that personal journey to complement the social, political, and economic stuff I do as well. I'll stop there because I'm going down the line, but
no, brother, we in the backyard. We done fired the grill up. Eric, he done come through. Richard, I'm gonna have Eric share a little bit, and then you can then go into the same question. I'm gonna just engage Eric in the conversation. Eric, tell us the name of your organization. We've already read your bio, but just tell folks the name of your organization and your organizational mission.
Sure. Just like Brother Heber, I want to just thank both of y'all for the direct and or indirect influence that y'all two Black men have had on me in my journey. So even though I couldn't join in, I heard that part, and I thank you for setting that precedent. That's important, and so many other people, because it is at least as close as we can get to what Brother Heber was talking about, which I hope I get a chance to talk about. No, I just want to second that. I just wish the whole person the whole person. There are things that I'm sure we've all struggled with that we probably didn't have to if folks weren't elevated as saints. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Glad to be here, Brother Eric Jackson, Servant Director of an organization called Black Yield Institute. And Black Yield Institute's work is centered similarly to Black Church Food Security Network, in that we look to organize the strengths and build upon the challenges of Black and brown peoples for the purpose of addressing food apartheid and moving toward what we call Black land and food sovereignty. And so our what that looks like in terms of how we materialize that mission and that vision. Our vision is to see a strong Black community that includes institutions, entities, people, relationships that control our destiny as it relates to all things, but utilizing food and land as vehicles to do so. And the 5 ways that we do that entail, well, I guess we kind of break that up into 2 gourds, and actually borrowing from the good brother Heber Brown, Reverend Dr. Heber Brown III. I apologize. Let me put that on there. I don't know who's listening. No, man, that's my guy. So he says, look, we have to critique what is and change, what or create change or build what we want to see. And so in doing so, in terms of critiquing or responding to what exists, we got 2 initiatives that we operate: our urban agriculture work, People's Urban Agriculture, and our Food Susu organizing. Both are 2 project-based initiative areas that are focusing on institution building that address the direct impacts of the limited access to healthy, affordable foods and culturally appropriate foods, and that get to the very basis of limited power or unrealized power. And we do that right now through the stewardship of a farm, and multiple operations that function within that, community building, community cultural celebrations on the land, restoring relationships to the land in several ways, and then also through the establishment of a cooperatively owned grocery store, another institutional movement enterprise that will, when it's fully operationalized, will be owned and controlled by the people, and feed people directly. So that's the food apartheid, addressing food apartheid work. We also talk about our work in terms of building movement toward Black land and food sovereignty, and we do that through political education. We do that through action network weaving, connecting with knowing that Black Church Food Security Network and Black Yield Institute ain't the only organizations that's going to do this work. It's got to take all of us, and whether they're organizations or independent members of our community, we should be and have to be organized. And borrowing from the great philosopher Caesar of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, apes strong together, right? And so I know that caricature of Black people as the ape is a little tough one, but the real deal is we stronger together than we are apart, and like for real, not just in talking about it. And so we're hoping that what we can do is organize and doing that, building community and relationships through our St. Carver Hamer Academy. And then lastly, supporting as much as we can in content creation through our Black food research and knowledge creation initiative areas. And that for us looks to, again, address what is, support what is to be. And then the third kind of pathway that we operate that's not really frontward facing is institution building, knowing that, exactly what Brother Heber talked about. And we had so many conversations about this. When the rally over, you got to come some way. In fact, rallies ain't going to sustain the type of freedom that we talking about. We're going to have to build institutions, and not only those institutions, we need to have liberatory containers that actually allow us to do the work, right? And so we're working through experimenting with, failing, and documenting all of those things So really glad to hear Brother Heber talk about that, like all the ways it's working for us and not working, and being clear about the limitations around what it looks like to institutionalize our freedom praxis. And what does liberatory praxis look like in the workplace, in the day-to-day? What does it look like in taking care of ourselves, rest and celebration, things like that? That, again, that's not so forward-facing, but really important aspects of the work, so that we're actually able to fully operationalize and materialize what sovereignty looks like right here and out there. And so that's our work, and how we are doing that work in the here and now.
Thank you. Powerful. Richard?
Because I'm taking notes, man. I really just want them to keep talking, brother. I'm just writing and listening. But to both of you brothers, please know your praises for us are so well received and appreciated, because again, we don't do that enough. And we wait until folks transition before we shower them with the praise and the love. That we should do that every single day. You all have already given us the answer to the issues that we are confronted with today. Not only have you all talked about the answers, you all are demonstrating through your actions. I know much more about Brother Heber Brown than I do about you, Brother Eric, unfortunately, but I'm learning more about you, learning more about your dedication, your commitment to the work. But I know Brother Heber Brown because I have seen him in motion enough to know that his word is his bond. And I know that he is about lessons learned. So he's not about repeating the bad lessons of yesteryear to simply bring them up to the forefront 2.0. He has basically pushed them aside, and basically is simply saying, look, we've got to get this work. And I could really talk about him because I've listened to him enough through the pandemic, through his virtual sermons. I've sent Brother David so much money to his church over the past 18 months that they should name a room after me, after my wife. That's how much I love him and his work. He has what's called, the three churches that exist. One is containment, one is entertainment, and the other one is liberation. His church is truly a liberation church. I love you for that, brother. Brother Eric, I love you for the work you are doing. But David wants me to get to at least one question. We know we're going to run out of time. But you all, a question that I have, and I raised this question to Dion Cartwright and Brother Davon Love last night. And David, this is a little deviation from the questions that we had raised. But this was a question that I raised last night to them that focused on the youth fund proper. And it's hopefully what your response will be to support the significance of the youth fund as it relates to the entire city or region. And that question has to do with 4 or 5 words that we lifted up. Those words are aspirational, motivational, informational, inspirational, and transformational. And these are words, again, that define pretty much the youth fund by its mission and its work. And 10 years out for the youth fund, they answered the question what the youth fund might look like. But for this city, this region, brothers, what should those words translate into in terms of institution building? Aspirational, motivational, informational, inspirational, and transformational for our young people and for our families in this city.
I think, Brother Rowe, thank you so much for your kind words. I will tell you, I'm not the only preacher on the screen. Brother Eric is a preacher of the highest caliber as well, and I've been blessed by his sermons over the years, and his ministry too. And when I think about those words, I think when it comes to especially informational and inspiration, all of them apply to Brother Eric. But Brother Eric, I'm appreciating the ways in which you are very thoughtful and deliberate with respect to not just the what, but the how we get there. And I'm grateful for your witness, and I'm connecting this question, Brother Rowe, to what Brother Eric demonstrates every single day in terms of really taking the journey, the full journey, from the joy and the drum to the dance to the laugh to the hard work, the political education. So I'd be curious, Eric, to hear what your thoughts are in terms of how to bring that to crystallization through the youth fund and for our city and then for the region. Just honestly curious.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Matt, to call you after this for all of that. I'm gonna need you to write that down so I can read it later. In them tough moments. I appreciate it. I think when I hear that question, what immediately comes to mind is I think that the youth fund itself provides an inspirational model in the sense that where the aspirations are, right? I talked to Brother Davon Love a while, maybe about 3 or so months ago, as we were doing some work to advance a land reparations framework and that we were offering up to elected officials. And one of the things that he talked about, and I believe he didn't say this directly, but I believe it's because of his what he witnessed through the work as one of the foundational board members for the Youth Fund, and that is to create institutions that can be recipients of the type of financial commitments and training that comes through any kind of policy, but that also creates the type of business model that does not necessitate continual government funding and that supports movement work, and that it almost serves as a liaising institution between government and government promises, if you will, and government resources to support movement in a different way than not the traditional nonprofit model does, at least theoretically so. And so with that as an understanding of where the Youth Fund, at least the foundation for it, I think that what it offers up in terms of transformation, aspiration, information, and all of those things that were shared is a different way of seeing institution building that does not intentionally move in the same way as the nonprofit industrial complex has kind of normalized as the way to do it, by being able to receive resources and funding while also critiquing the same institutions and agencies that are still having those types of resources. And I like to think that the two organizations, that are represented here are also seeking to do the same thing, whether it's through philanthropic dollars and or public dollars, being very intentional that we're not going to sell our souls, but we need change costs. And so we look to that. But at the same time, being clear that you're not going to buy us. You can keep your money at the table, and you can keep your money wherever the sun don't shine if you think it's going to change our ethos, how we approach the work, where we do it, and who we critique, including those that receive those funds. And so I think when I think about that question, that's immediately what I think of. And again, not to center Black Church Food Security Network and Black Youth Institute, but I think that in a similar way, the Baltimore City, Children and Youth Fund, I think creates a pathway for that. And so when I think about all of those descriptors, I think it creates a new model that goes outside of the critique of like, yo, I don't want to go nonprofit route because it's a sellout, or we want to go that way because that's the only way. It provides a different kind of model of being true to form, but also having a new form that allows us to fully operationalize what we want to see and be. And so that's what I think of.
So, Brother Eric and Brother Heber, in keeping with, and again, we out in the backyard at the cookout, there are a whole host of organizations in the city at different levels. I think one of the things that really came out particularly when it came to the youth fund actually issuing RFPs and looking at the sheer volume of RFPs received, proposals received based on the RFP process. I think it really informed folks that there are just so many organizations in Baltimore that need funding and that are in different stages developmentally. And many of those folks are tuning into this broadcast and will see the recording. I want you guys to just share share some advice, because you were both of you were in startup at one point. You at the visioning stage at one point. We talk about movement building, we talk about mission fuel. What kind of mission fuel would you give those groups that are in startup, in infancy, that are all ready to give up? They are ready to give up, right? Because they bumped their head against this very strange, draconian funding cycle in this city. What advice would you give them? And I'm gonna start with you, Heber, and then we're gonna go to Eric.
Real quick, I'll say you just gave me flashbacks. Me and Eric were standing in the parking lot in the freezing cold, right? This
years ago,
we were standing in the parking lot in the freezing cold and talk all these dreams and things we was trying to do, and it was a vitamin. It was nourishing because it can be a very lonely path, and particularly for Black men, we struggle with being in relationship through the highs, lows, and ups and downs, and the frustration of hitting those walls that you just referenced, Brother David. And so, Brother Eric was one, Brother Dariel. There were Black men, there were Black women, there were Black siblings and cousins and kin that I was in relationship with to be like, yo, here's the idea I woke up with today. What you think? And to know that I'd be saying it to somebody who would say something like, it's funny you should say that. I had the same idea to do this, that, and the other, right? I would say community. Please reject individual superheroes. If I can talk to anybody at that early stage, please work hard to reject it and be in the accountable relationships where people can help you steer clear, because it's very easy to go there. The other thing I'll say super quick is learn how to do it broke. Do it broke.
There you go.
Don't jump out the gate and chase for money, or just because it's a grant don't mean it's your grant. Just because it's a funding opportunity don't mean it's yours. I would honestly say do it broke. Ramen noodles, go do that, right? Scrapple, go do it that level. Because if you can figure out, like right now, we're grateful to have foundation support. But let's say tonight, the funders got together and said, you know what, we're taking all this money away from the Black Church Food Security Network. Do you know I will wake up tomorrow and be just fine because I know how to do this, bro. The money came later. The money came later.
Yeah.
The money came after Eric will tell, we was already doing the work. Eric was already doing the work. The money caught up after the work was already in motion. So I would just say, please don't run for money first. Please. And then listen to other. I remember there was one foundation we was going to, and they had like this orientation to come and learn together, right? And I went to the thing. In the room, other people who I love and respect and look up to we was all in the room together. It was a little bit of pot of money, and this dynamic was about to put us at loggerheads against each other, trying to get a little piece of pot of money. And right there in the room, we huddled in the corner, and you said, you know what? We said, you know what? We ain't gonna compete against each other for this little piece of change over here in these peanuts. We walked out of the room and said, forget this. We'll figure it out by staying together, then get into this competitive process and now be trying to outright each other on paper. Forget all that. I'm gonna do it broke and we're gonna figure it out together. I'm sorry, Eric, to give him a little sermon though. That's what I
No, man, we love the sermon. We're gonna be passing the collection plate around in a few minutes, and the choir can ready to stand up. Go ahead, Eric. What advice?
I would say, man, well, first of all, not Scrapple, bro. Ramen noodles cool, not Scrapple. No, I'm joking, but we ain't got to go there. We ain't got to.
He said we ain't there yet.
Not those. No, seriously. I would say, man, I second both of those things, and I think something that at least rolls with that. I think the immediate thing would be, and Brother Heber would tell you that, plan. We don't always like to plan, and planning don't mean being super committed and married to everything you put on paper. But I have this belief that that what we imagine, and not fantasy, not what we fantasize about, what we imagine has to have some kind of shape, right? What I call this notion of confined spontaneity. What's your confinement? Like Brother Heber was talking about. What do I do, right? And what is that? And then create give room for the creative process and or the Holy Spirit and or your genius and or whatever that is to operate. But you got to have your confinement. Otherwise, you're going to be in a position where you're like, oh, I want to do that. 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 So I would suggest plan. Sit down and get clear about, and with that community that Brother Heber talked about, let them get clear with you about what you're good at and what you're not good at. If you're good at ideas, but you're not good at details, if you're good at details, but you're not in front person, don't try to be a person in front. If your job is to run money, to be a trustee, to be a finance person, let your job be who you are, right? I mean, we remove ego out of it. And I think that that's important. When I think, Brother Heber, and thank you for acknowledging that, but the how, the reason I spend a lot of time on how is like, if we thought about it like a logic model, right? We always talk about inputs and outcomes. What about outputs? Outputs is the process. What we do from what we put in to where we're trying to get to. That's in my opinion, if we spend more time in the process, that's where the planning comes. You're going to get where you want to be, and you might even do more, or you might do less, or you realize along the way that there's, process there. And I think also at the startup phase, I think it's probably cliche to say, but, practice what you get good at. It's not going to come. It ain't going to just come. That don't happen. And particularly for melanated peoples, African peoples in particular, unless you come from big money, old money, it ain't going to just come. You don't have time to experiment. You don't, right? You don't have time to just like, oh, we're going to do this, right? We're going to have to leverage with all of the resources that we have, including the resources of ourselves, the resources of our faith, the resources of our histories. We can't disclaim or diminish the value of that pursuit. And I don't just mean like hustle is important, but I mean, if we're going to institutionalize, with my first piece of advice, the only way to institutionalize is to plan. It don't happen, but the only way to do it is to just make it happen. Just do it. Lean on those things that we know we got. We ain't got a whole lot of money. You know what I mean? You might got 2 nickels to rub together. You do what you can with them 2 nickels. You know what I'm saying? But in the meantime, knowing that there's currency that we have that nobody could actually give you, that it's actually not replenishable unless you do the work, of doing that replenishment. So I think that that's important. And maybe the last thing would be something that Brother Heber alluded to. Stay tapped in. Well, he didn't allude to it. He said it. I think I just wanted to get a little piece of it. I learned a lot at a personal level. Folks, seeing 2 of my children, 2 of our younger sons together. But man, I've learned a lot. And I'm just being vulnerable with family. I learned a lot about what not to do. And like I was telling myself, Brother, I know you remember this. I don't want to be like Malcolm, where I pass on and my children don't know me. And then I did it. I did it to the peril of my family, man. So I'm saying that to say that it's at that vision stage that we're going to bust our tails, but we can't forget what is important holistically. And that's where community is going to be real. That's where like, all right, you got the hustle and grind. You even got the passion and the call from God and the ancestors. All of that is true at the same time. And if we being stewards of the things that we were given and not stewards of the relationships we got, we failed ourselves.
Wow.
How are we going to do that? How are we going to do sovereignty, freedom, equity, and we ain't doing it right here? It starts right here.
Wow.
And so that's real. And that's the thing that we got. Like if you at the stage right now, you listening and you like, I've got this unction and there's this feeling, there's this thing. I know I got to do it. Just know that ain't the only thing. That ain't, you're not relegated to your call. That's a part of who you are. You're not your call. All right, I'm gonna be quiet because I feel it now.
And David, that's the message. They dropping African diamonds, brother, not pearls. They going heavy on us, man. So I know we're getting very, very close to the end, and we need you all's wisdom and your perspective on this question as we get closer to the end. There may be others out there who might want to chime in the audience who might want to lift up some questions as well. Please do that. But if you all could share one youth-centered message with the village of parents, caregivers, and other caring adults in this city, what would that message be to ensure the physical, psychological, and emotional success of young people going forward? What would that message be?
I'll say quickly, the thing that just came to mind to me was to reevaluate the metrics that we utilize in to evaluate our children. Can we interrogate those metrics? Because something in me says, and I got a sneaky suspicion that some of the metrics that we're trying to evaluate our young people on are metrics created and fashioned from sources that never had the highest intention for our children to begin with. So if the metric says to have a good life, go to school, get good grades, graduate, get a job with benefits, how does that jive with what Brother Eric just shared? As you said, the pearls that he just shared about family and love, like those metrics don't work. And if we continue to try to force our children into confined spaces and boxes that align with a social design set up to imprison and destroy our people, then we are the ones who must be held accountable. Because their genius is trying to blossom. And here we are trying to get them in the box.
Come on, brother.
They're trying to soar, and we're trying to get them to be satisfied with just strolling. They say, Mama, I don't want to stroll. I want to soar.
Come on, Brother Heber. Come on, brother.
So, yes, I would just, that's my quick note of just, and that's a bigger conversation. That's a longer conversation. But I would just say, let's really evaluate what kind of metrics are we utilizing to determine the health, the wholeness, and the genius of our children. If we can interrogate that, and then, like Brother Eric said, do the planning around that and what that looks like, it might end up making us rethink some of the things that we're doing currently with respect to our children. It might make us rethink our programs, our operations, our configurations in that way. And so that's what I would offer up.
Brother Eric, you want to chime in? Or you?
I'm going to say yes, and I think that is the sovereignty work, right? Like when we get clear about sovereignty, ain't about what we can do out there, but it's about from our frameworks and from our backdrops and from our own cultural underpinnings. I think that is spending that time being in that. But I don't have enough in that. I just want to just kind of just put a cloak over what the brother said. He said, like, that's sovereignty too. It ain't separate from the work and separate from the mission. And if it ain't sovereignty or justice, whatever we call it, freedom, that's a part of it too. Being able to operate from our own modalities of as human beings. I think that and what that would then cause us to do from my perspective is just chill out. That's what I would tell my 25-year-old self. Chill. Like, now I'll create the framework, but also chill. It's so serious. Something came to me. Look, and I'll be quiet after this, I promise. I learned that the sun that we got, this thing in our universe, they're bigger suns than that. All that to say, for me, what came to me was, it all matters so much that it don't matter. Chill out. That's it. I mean, that's what I would say, but anyway, and if we chill out, our children gonna chill out.
I gotta go there real quick. Something that both of you have said that needs to be a master class. We need to figure out how we can do this, Richard. Both of you have alluded to family and being able to make some clear decisions about the work on behalf of our people and our family and our families, our loved ones, our children. I remember having a conversation with Jawanza Kanjufu several years ago about how so many of us are doing the work, but yet our families are raggedy. Talk briefly, and this could be a whole webinar discussion in itself. Talk about the time and energy you guys put into family, because people see you on the front line, but they don't see you at home. Talk about just give the people a word about the importance of spending time at the house with the family, doing things with the children. Because I know both of you, it's funny, both of you text me to say you were running a little bit late because you had to pick up your child. And I was like, yo, we good. We got a DJ. We're going to entertain folks. Y'all take your time. So talk about that family commitment really quickly. Heber and then Eric.
I'll say real quick, more than any speech, more than any sermon, more than any conference or event I planned, organization I helped to found, the most intense, difficult, rewarding, fulfilling work for me is being a husband and a father. And I can't even say I got it down pat. I don't. I took a sabbatical this year, and sabbatical away from the church, away from everything, right? And one of the things I was writing in my journal about just ways I wanted to grow as a dad and as a husband. And one of the things we did in that time is just walk together, walk around the block, all that kind of stuff. But also one of the things we did was watch the Cosby Show. And it was family time watching the Cosby Show. No phones, no nothing. Every night we had it on Netflix, right? And episode by episode every night. So look, one of the episodes, Heathcliff kisses Theo on the forehead, and Theo was like, you know, Dad, you're kissing me. What are you doing? And Heathcliff said, you're my son, and I love you. And that thing convicted me, man. Because when my boys were babies, I would kiss them all the time. They get older. Now they smell different. They got little attitudes and stuff. And I stopped kissing on them. But after that episode, I started kissing my sons again. And they don't like it. They don't like it. But I don't care. I drop them off at school. I get out the truck and I kiss them on the forehead before they walk in the building. Come on, Dad. Stop, Dad. Stop. Nah, you're gonna get this. You need to know I love you. And that episode and that practice convicted me for the ways in which I was not emotionally available to the degree I needed to be to my family. And so, you know, I can't give a master class on that. I am sitting on the floor as a student trying to learn more and more. And really, my teachers are those two boys downstairs and my wife. They're the ones who, at the end of the day, whatever else you hear at my service, when my days are done, whatever else you hear, what I'm trying to do is make sure that my boys are able to say, you know what, all that other stuff was good, but he kissed me, he was here, he loved me. So, you know, that's what I'm striving to do in that realm. But it's only because I've fallen so many times that I've realized how much I need to really work just as hard, if not harder, on being present, available, and picking my children up from school every day and dropping them off, all that kind of stuff too.
Eric.
I mean, we in the same place, man. I think, you know, really, I'm going to be a student. And if I can teach anything, is what not to do. I can teach you about the struggle. I can teach you about getting up again, but I can't teach you about how to do it without error. And so for me, I am every day working through undoing and doing anew ways to be a better father and husband. It's if I'm honest with y'all, this is one of the thorns in my flesh. This is the thing that I told myself, I tell my people that I work with every single day, and people who look to me or what have you, that this is for my family. But it hasn't always translated to them. I can say what I want to say all day long, I can think what I want to think all day long. But if it don't translate and they don't know that I'm doing this for them, they don't know that I'm looking to change, to be a part of the process of changing the world with them, and even bringing them along so that they learn and hopefully do it after me. In whatever ways that they contribute to liberation, but none of that has mattered to my 15, 12, 8, and 4-year-old son and my wife if I haven't, and because I haven't been the best steward. And so I'd be a student teacher, and I'd be teaching a lesson on what not to do and how not to be in this place where I'm at right now, trying to figure out what to do with the harvest that I didn't want, or the harvest that has come because I haven't been the best steward. And that is on an active journey to shift that now by working on and with me through and I ain't afraid to say it, I don't care, through therapy. And I ain't afraid to say it by spending time with family. And I ain't afraid to say it going back and say, look, I apologize. I did not mean that. And I meant to do that. And I know that I am not my behaviors. That's a big lesson that came through therapy for me. And my behaviors have had consequences that I must deal with. And so when I talk about the harvest, I talk about those, the not so tight relationship that I want to have and all of those things. And so that's real. We can talk about food all day long, but I've seeded some things unintentionally that have grown fruit. You know what I'm saying? That fruit that I can at least teach about and figure out how to move it forward. And not no GMOs either. These were real. This came from just again really immaturity and not having the skills and tools necessary to do what I said I wanted. And so that for me, I think is important. So young people, as you're thinking about families, or you got a family or what have you, we got to make sure we keep that at the forefront. While you can't be the best family member without being your best self, awareness is important, because we might be thinking we're being our best self. So listen to that community, listen to our family, because you don't want to look up and see the fruit of plants that you ain't mean to sow seeds.
So brothers, I want to thank you guys for your courage, transparency, your vision, your model. Want to thank your families for sharing you with us and the larger community and all of the hours that you guys put in. And I know you guys have said things that have touched the people that are listening and the people that will watch this broadcast. And so I deeply want to thank you guys. When Rich and I and Sadiq and the team had talked about who we wanted to bring on to really set the tone for moving forward, when we threw you guys' names out, we knew that that it was going to be special. So I just want to thank you guys. Everybody, just put something in the chat form. Also, keep in mind, you can find both of their organizations online. They do take donations because, again, we ain't always got to wait for white folks' money. So if any one of y'all want to give them $10,000 each right now, let it go ahead and happen. And so once again, we're going to want to thank Brother Eric, Reverend Dr. Heber Brown. We're going to bring back